Alright, what's good, y'all? We back on another YouTube video. Now today we was finna react to top 10 scared fighters who refused to fight and just ran away. You know what I'm saying? We can't be running. You feel me? If you gonna get knocked out, get knocked out. It is what it is. All you got on. You know what I'm saying? Don't run. You feel me? It is what it is. We're gonna hop into the video though. Like, comment, subscribe.
Welcome to Entertainment, the channel with the most deceptive name in all of YouTube. Today we'll be looking at fighters who just simply refused to engage in the fight, and some even got disqualified for timidity, which means that they just refused to take shots and would either run or just lay on the ground.
Turn around, my nigga.
So they
Turn
lost
around.
the fight. I have to ask myself if this style of just basically quitting the fight is better than just straight up quitting and throwing in the towel. You technically stay in the fight, but you sure do bring down the excitement and your reputation. If you happen to enjoy this video, please give a like and subscribe down below. And also make sure to turn on those notifications so you know when I upload more videos. Let's get started. Let's start out with this fight from UFC 83 back in 2008 when Khalib Starnes was facing off against Nate Quarry. Quarry was the winner in this fight, not because he landed more punches or the strongest punches, but because Starnes didn't fight at all. He just retreated the entire time, basically running away. It turned out that before this fight, Starnes was asked if he wanted to fight Quarry, and he said that he wasn't at his level. So Quarry had to fight somebody else first, which he did and won, and then Starnes was forced to fight him this time around. After that snub, Quarry said that he wanted to end Starnes' career, and he did do it, but not in the way he intended by putting a beating on him, but because the UFC was ashamed by Starnes' lack of action in this fight and they released him, and he never fought in the octagon again. Starnes only threw 53 strikes in this fight and only landed 12. The funniest part was at the end, when Quarry mocked Starnes by doing his patented move, the rock hammer, and instead of Starnes taking advantage of him being unprotected, he just kept running away. The judges scored this fight 30-27, 30-26, and 30-24.
That man
with that last judge calling each round 10-8 due to the timidity.
Imagine that being somebody's first UFC fight. Watching.
Being the younger brother of a UFC champion means a lot of things are expected of you, but Matt Serra's younger brother, Nick Serra, did not live up to that name. He fought against Matt Makowski back in 2008, and he actually started the fight wanting to engage and take Makowski down to the ground, as he is a jiu-jitsu specialist. But he was getting hammered with strikes whenever they were standing up, and after failing a submission early in the first round, Makowski really started beating up Serra. In the second round, Serra was completely wiped out and just started retreating and running away, hoping to somehow get Makowski on the ground, but it just never happened.
Bro, that nigga
eventually tried to pull guard, at least I think that's what he was trying to do.
Makowski, the younger fighter, senses it, and he walks away from Nick Serra.
But Makowski just walked back, and Serra took forever to get up. And when he did get up, he just threw himself down again. He got warned and still didn't get up to engage, so he was disqualified.
I've never felt so close to the possibility of disclosure. The Nephilim.
I hope they don't copyright me. I feel like they know what they're doing.
Shane Mosley back in 2011. The fight started off normal with Mosley and Pacquiao trading shots, and they were both really into the fight. But in the third round, Mosley was laid out.
I know who that is.
This changed everything. I guess Mosley was really surprised by Pacquiao's speed and power that he just stopped fighting. He just started retreating and running, trying to avoid any sort of engagement. At one point in the later rounds, Mosley begged his trainer to stop the fight, but he refused, saying that Mosley was a different type of fighter and he could get through this.
Settle down, Shane. You cut from a different cloth, baby.
I don't know if he meant that he could get to the end by running away, but either way, he did manage to survive. Mosley did state later that Pacquiao was the hardest hitter he had ever encountered, which says a lot since he fought a ton of great fighters.
Damn. Shit.
Denis Kanakov was able to beat Abdul Rahman Makaziev in their 2016 fight in Russia after Makaziev seemed to get really exhausted in the second round and was just trying to take the fight to the ground. Kanakov, though, is a very smart fighter, so he just walked away, forcing his opponent to get back up, which he refused to do so. He got warned and was given a yellow card, but he just stayed down. The final decision was that Kanakov won because of timidity by his opponent. Makasyev's entire game plan was to get the fight to the ground, but after failing to keep Kanakov on the ground after getting 2 takedowns,
I would be
just
honest
wore
with y'all
himself
boys,
out.
man.
Plus, he kept getting hit pretty good, even knocked down twice in the first round.
Buddy talking to him. There we go. You know what I'm saying? Speed it up. I'm getting bored. Nigga yarning and
Blake
shit.
Guida and Gray Maynard had one of the lamest fights ever. Guida decided to fight on the outside since Maynard is a pretty hard-hitting fighter, but he took this a little too far and basically just ran away for most of the fight. He did it so much that he got warned by the ref.
I wish he showed more of the fight. Like,
what made this fight even worse was that it was scheduled for 5 rounds, and everybody had to see this joke of a fight for 25 minutes. In those 25 minutes, they combined for a total of 101 landed strikes. Apparently, that was the game plan from the beginning, to frustrate Maynard, which they did since he started berating and taunting his opponent, which is something that he just didn't do. Maynard even dropped his hands and allowed Guida to hit him cleanly, but instead of doing that, Guida threw a couple of shots but then went for the takedown. In the end, Maynard was the winner via a decision. Daniel Aguiar claimed that he got injured during his fight against Sam Toomer back in 2014, where he lost the fight after getting disqualified.
It's a lot of MMA shit.
Come back down. The outstanding ref, Mike Beltran, telling him, hey, you gotta do something here. He wants the fight to stay totally on the ground.
Aguiar got kicked a ton of times in the leg, and he said that that's why he couldn't fight. He even went to the ground after a kick and invited Toomer to get down on the ground with him, so they could fight in that style. But
I feel like as a man, you know what I'm saying? Typically, as a man, bro, you got into this fighting game for a reason. You know what I'm saying? Like, but as a man, you just doing shit like this. Like, honestly, that says a lot. You know what I'm saying? That says a lot about you. You feel me?
To be an idiot to do that.
Cap.
Every time Toomer was closing in, instead of Aguiar engaging in trading shots, he would just throw himself onto his back and hope that Toomer would throw out his game plan and just go to the ground game. But he didn't, and eventually the ref warned Aguiar a couple of times, but apparently because of his leg injury, he couldn't get up. Aguiar said that in the hospital he was in so much pain that he needed morphine, which is something that he didn't even take when he got shot during a robbery earlier in his life. Let me know in the comments if you believe this guy. Canelo Alvarez and Erislandy Lara landed a total of 204 punches during their 12-round fight, where Canelo was able to win by a split decision. The fight was controversial because it was really close in the copy box, but mostly everybody would give the fight to Canelo because Lara just ran the entire fight. That was his game plan from the beginning, and Lara thought he won the fight, but his showing in this fight is the reason why he will never be a top-paid fighter, because he is a pretty boring fighter. He's a good boxer, but that won't get you the name recognition of a big mouth like Mayweather, who does engage way more than Lara did in this fight. In the end, Canelo said that he didn't come here to run a marathon, and once Lara learned to fight, he would give him a rematch.
Sabíamos que iba a ser así la pelea, ¿no? Presionando íbamos a ganar. No pensamos que íbamos a ir un maratón tan largo, pero así fue.
Oh, yeah. That nigga was moving.
Ken Shamrock was known as the most dangerous man at one point in his career, so seeing him have this boring-ass fight against Dan Severn at UFC 9, where they had them WWE belts with very little action, is kind of sad. You might think that they didn't want to fight, but the actual reason was because there was a rule change right before this fight, where the court said that the fighters would have to get warned and fined later if they threw punches, which is absolutely ridiculous. Severn was given the win via a split decision in what turned out to be possibly the most boring fight in UFC history.
Alright, bet. Video almost over. I'm gonna be honest with you, this video, I don't know.
between Robert Bernayka, who was a bodybuilder, and David Azdoba, who was making his MMA debut. I'm not criticizing Azdoba here because this is the way you have to fight a guy that is much bigger than you. But you had to trade a little more than this. The size difference is enormous, and if Bernayka was able to get it
was an
over
insane
Azdoba,
weight class?
that fight might be over. Also, every time this guy swings his arms, he almost throws Azdoba to the ground, even if the punch doesn't land. In the end, Azdoba was warned since he just kept running away, and eventually got disqualified for timidity.
Damn! That nigga flew. That nigga flew.
The most recent fight that everybody thought was going to bring fireworks was the fight between hard-hitting Francis Ngannou and Derek Lewis, but it turned out to be the most boring recent fight in the UFC. Nobody thought that this fight would get out of the first round. Since somebody would get caught, it would be sleeping on the canvas. But instead, it lasted all 3 long, excruciating rounds. And in the end, Lewis had only landed 20 strikes, and Ngannou had only landed 11. Ngannou's excuse for this sad showing was that he was still affected by his grueling defeat against Miocic, while Lewis had an injured back and couldn't do much. They both also got warned by the referee for timidity, but that still didn't change anything. I think they should have stopped the fight and given both of them a loss. Or maybe the fight was just too hyped because of the 2 monsters that were meeting in the octagon. I think that these fights are really just frustrating. It's like that gif where the truck is supposed to...
I hope you guys enjoyed this video along too. You know what I'm saying? Like, comment, subscribe if you're new. That video I couldn't really say too much. Like, you feel me? Like, he didn't show too much. So I didn't even know most of the characters. You feel me? But I'm going to see y'all boys in the next video.